It's an old familiar story of buried treasure, mined from the earth by eager prospectors and rugged immigrants. The Copper Range of Upper Michigan was the first place to witness it in our country, preceding even the California Gold Rush. Some of the earliest arrivals to the Keweenaw Peninsula were Cornishmen, known in the mines as Cousin Jacks. They could bake a good pasty and spin a good yarn, like the tale of Red Jacket Village, which sat right atop one of the world's richest copper deposits. Gather round as Cousin Jack Foster remembers Boomtown America, now known as Calumet, Michigan.
Life is like a journey taken on a train with a pair of travelers at each window pane. I might sit beside you all the journey through, or I might sit elsewhere, never knowing you. But if God should mark me to be there by your side, let's be pleasant travelers. Life's a very short ride. Let's go back to 1907. That's the year my sister Laura was born. She was 18 months older than I. The Western Federation of Miners, South Dakota, Utah, Nevada, Colorado, Montana. Headquarters, Butte, Montana. And the Western Federation of Miners sent employment agents into the copper country to join the union and also to have men to come to Montana to work in their mines because the pay was that much greater. A goodly number of families moved out there. And when they got there, they were disappointed because the cost of living was that much higher. So they were no further ahead. Some were stranded there, others came home. My dad and mother, my sister and brother moved out there, 1910. And my sister and I were put out in the street in the gutter to play, and my mother ran away. We have never seen our mother. And we were brought down the police station. When my dad came out of Leonard Mine, neighbors told him where we were. He went down and picked us up, and he called my grandmother here in Calumet. She took the train to Duluth. He put us on the train, the Great Northern, with a nurse and shipped us back to Duluth. Grandma picked us up there and brought us back here at the Centennial location just north of Calumet, where she was running a boarding house. And she raised us. Red Jacket Village. Saturday night shopping night. 60, 70,000 people in the area. 33,000 people, Calumet Township. $1,900. The building boom from 1890 to 1910. Fifth Street was to have been the alley. But somehow the businessmen got over on that narrow street. Concrete, brick, and mortar was going up so fast, before they knew it, it was Boomtown's main street. And you can imagine in the winter with 200 and 300 inches of snow, and they had a big roller with 2 or 3 team of horses pulling it. They rolled it. That meant you had to shovel down to get into the stores, the business houses. 1906, there was nearly 5,000 people in this tiny village. Boarding houses, hotels, attics, and basements. And only 325 were American-born. They were coming from all over the world, every country you could think of, to work in the mines. These people left something back there that wasn't too good. And they came to find something that's better. They came to work, not for dole, and they worked. And with all the nationalities, they got along. You can imagine working in a mine with a group of men that talked different nationalities, motioning to each other until they could speak English. Saturday night was shopping night. Streetcars every 15 minutes, 10 trains a day in and out of Calumet and Lorium. 5 theaters, pool halls, Chinese laundries, Greek candy stores, ice cream parlors, Greasy Pete restaurants, chop suey dives, 40 liquor establishments in the village, wine cellars, liquor sales, and every second door a saloon. 40 in the village, 60 in the township. 30 churches in the township and 30 schools. Saturday night, sidewalks weren't wide enough for baby buggies and people. You had to go with the flow of the crowd. Up one side, down the other. You couldn't buck it. The old blind man with his organ and tin cup went up and down the sidewalk, led by his son Dewey, illiterate, hung around the Salvation Army. Salvation Army band always played on Stick Bar's corner, plus other bands in the area giving concerts. Streetcars from Houghton and Hancock, Lakeland and Hubble, Mohawk and Wolverine, every 15 minutes a car. Special cars for performances at this great theater. Boomtown, America. (1913). From 1907 to 1913, the Western Federation of Miners were signing up membership in the Union. By 1913, had 7,000 members, a little better. They said 9,000, but 7,000, a little better than 7,000. And they planned to strike Calumet and Hecla. They said if we get Calumet and Hecla, the others will be easy. And on July the 25th, 1913, they struck the whole copper area. 23 mining companies. Sheriff Jim Cruz in Houghton County couldn't handle the situation. Sheriff John Hepting, Keweenaw County, couldn't handle it. They called Governor Ferris in Lansing for help. And Governor Ferris sent in the whole National Guard. Troop trains for 2 solid days had the right of way over passenger trains and freight. The whole Guard moved in an armed camp. Shootings, fights, father against son, neighbor against neighbor, relatives against relatives. And so it dragged on from July to the fall of the year, when they had to prepare for the long winter ahead.
From all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Christmas Eve, 1913. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the Western Federation of Miners were giving a party for their children at the Italian Hall on 7th Street. A beautiful building put up around 1900 by the Christopher Columbus Society. The Italian Hall on the south end, a stairway, 22 steps, but a couple of concrete steps outside with an arch and 2 doors that opened outward. And then a little vestibule with a door going into the saloon and 2 doors at the bottom of the stairs that opened inward. A beautiful hall upstairs, 40 feet wide, from the front wall to the stage, 75 feet. A balcony up here, beautiful woodwork, tables and chairs where one could sit and look down on this beautiful hall that had so many dances, performances, and plays off of that stage. Back of the stage, a kitchen. And this evening, giving out candy, Santa Claus, 300 to 400 people jammed in this hall, men, women, and children. And someone hollered, "Fire." And there was no fire, but that throng of people started for the stairway, 22 steps coming down, and when they hit those doors at the bottom of the stairs, they stopped dead. And they started to pile, suffocate, and were trampled. 73, 53 children, 11 women, and 9 men. And when the firemen came and chopped out the doors, they were piled 5 feet high. One fireman called Willman saw a little boy. His body was in there such so that he wasn't getting all the weight, but his face was near the crack under the door, and he could breathe. And he pulled him out of there, and he lived. They used the town hall as a morgue. That kind of broke the back of the strike because the union said, we'll bury our own dead. The company said, we'll help, we'll finance. But the union said, we don't want anything to do with you. December the 26th, a day after, a group of people, men, went into the Scott Hotel and took the president of the union, Charles Moyer, out of his hotel room, walked him down the street, across the Houghton Bridge, shot him in the shoulder, put him on the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul train, and told him never to come back. That ended the strike. 10,000 people left Calumet Township. Thousands more in the outlying area. Our population dwindled to 22,000 Calumet Township. Thousands. Mostly the strikers moved out. They know they couldn't get a job here. But the main thing was, even though the Calumet and Hecla didn't recognize the union, the men won a battle, more pay, shorter hours, but the one-man machine stayed with us. Things worked on. 1914, World War I. (1917), we were involved in the war. America was in it. The mines were going again, full blast. Worked till 1920, when the war was over and the government stopped buying our copper. The stockpiles were full. 1921, everything shut down. One solid year, all the railroad men going to the Mesaba Range, the open pits were going full blast. Ford was making the Model T. Employment agents in here by the dozen, and trains were going out full of men. Flint, Pontiac, and Detroit. One solid year, there was hardly a man left here. 6,000 people left Calumet Township. After 1921, things started to pick up again. By 1929, we were going full blast, but on a smaller scale. 1930, all the single men were laid off. 3,000 left. May 1st, 1932, everything shut down. Cut the bolts, pull the pumps, let her flood. All the mines on the Copper Range closed except one shaft at Quincy. The government was buying that copper to make pennies. 3,000 more left during the Depression. By 1938, we opened up some shafts and started to work again. And before we knew it, we were into World War II. And we worked on during the war and after. After the war, we kept working. The copper market fluctuated up and down, but we kept working. We had 12,000 people here, 1,250 working for Calumet and Hecla. In 42, the Mine, Mill, and Smelter Union organized at Calumet and Hecla, their first union. And they were there for a couple of years, and they switched to steel. I went through 5 strikes as chief of police, chief of security. 1955 was a bad one, 4 months during a hot summer. But they got back together again in the fall. We started to work again. And Calumet and Hecla then diversified. And they were spending money for the kids. They weren't spending anything back home for Ma and Pa. And we were patching and making things do, but working on. The market fluctuating until April of 1968, when Calumet and Hecla merged with Universal Oil Products of Des Plaines, Illinois. And just a few days later, the Kingston mine, the new mine that they had opened, went out on strike. They were having problems over hoisting men and never did go back to work. It got pretty rough. And August the 21st, the contract was up. The whole thing went down. And they had meetings into 1969, but couldn't agree, and that was the end. And that was 25 years ago. And we have people 25 years of age that have never seen a man come home with a dinner bucket on his arm. We're fortunate to have our utilities, our hospitals, Michigan Tech near us, and SUNY College. Other than that, we have a couple of small shops, electronics, that hire about 100 people. In the last census, Calumet Township, 7,000. So in 25 years, we lost 5,000 more. So we sit, we wait, and we hope that we'll have another mine working. In the Gratiot Lake area, they talked about it. And with the national park, let's hope we hit bottom and start coming upward. We often think, oh, where did all these people go? Well, just west of us a mile, where they buried those people from the Italian Hall, that long march. A whole mile of procession. Not too much snow. 1913, they used wheels and sleighs, and men carried coffins on their shoulders. There's 31,000 out there today, all walks of life. Doctors, lawyers, miners, merchants. The 30 that died in the Osceola mine in a fire. The Italian Hall people. Yes, and George Gipp the Gipper. They're all there. Yes, the history of mining. People, a town, communities, history. Ma, is that the Italian Hall? Is that it, Ma? Is that where they died? Yes. What about that other man, Ma? Did they ever find him? What happened to him, Ma? Oh, a mine fire. And that other man, he fell in the shaft, Ma. Remember you told me he grabbed the rope and he held on? They saved him, but the skin was gone from his hands. Remember, Ma? I remember.